why your fasting blood sugars are higher. Okay, now before I go any further, if you're watching me live right now, comment live down below. If you're watching me on the replay at any point later today, over the weekend, next week, next month, whenever that may be, comment replay down below. So this is a really important topic to cover because there are so many things that influence your blood sugars, and with that, your fasting blood sugars too. So everything that we're about to go through is incredibly important to understand. Okay, so first of all, high blood sugars are a symptom of insulin resistance. Okay, type 2 diabetes, and insulin resistance, and therefore type 2 diabetes, is caused by excess body fat. Okay, so if we're wanting to long term reduce blood sugars, reduce A1C, and achieve remission, then first of all we need to achieve some significant fat loss, because it is excess body fat which is causing the insulin resistance rather, and therefore the type 2 diabetes. So I wanted to get that kind of discussed first of all, and I've spoken about this over and over again, and there are lots of videos that I discuss this in further detail. So if you would like me to tag you in any videos that do go into further detail, let me know down below. Okay, but blood sugar levels on a daily basis, like I said at the start, are under the influence of so many different things. Okay, obviously the first one, the most obvious thing, would be carbohydrates. Okay, if your carbohydrates are higher today, your blood sugars are going to be higher today, but your blood sugars are also likely to be higher tomorrow. Okay, so higher carbohydrates today will likely cause higher blood sugars tomorrow during the fasting, during your fasting blood test, I should say, blood sugar test. But carbohydrates later on in the evening are also going to cause, of course, higher fasting blood sugars that morning. Now, that's not a huge concern, that second point with later carbs, because your average blood sugars are still going to be exactly the same. If you eat dinner 2 hours later and then test your blood sugars 2 hours later rather, you will see that there's not any change or difference. Okay, so obviously we've got the main cause of insulin resistance, which is excess body fat. We've got carbohydrates on a daily basis, which can have, of course, an effect on the next day's fasting blood sugars. But then we've got all of the other things which are not so much within your control. Okay, we've got the dawn phenomenon. Okay, so this is something that happens usually between the hours of 2 and 5 a.m. and this is when your liver releases a bunch of glycogen into your bloodstream as blood glucose. This causes a spike in fasting blood sugars as your body can't keep up with that release. So you wake up and your blood sugars are higher. Now, there's not an awful lot that you can do as a result of this. This happens with everyone, not just not just if you've been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, but with people who haven't been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. But the problem is, if you are insulin resistant, then your body can't keep up with that release, and then you wake up and, of course, blood sugars are high. Okay, on top of that, you've got the Somogyi effect. Now, the Somogyi effect is when your blood sugars drop low whilst you're sleeping overnight, your body can sometimes overcompensate for that by an increase in hormones that lead to a release again of blood sugar. Now, this is different to the dawn phenomenon because this is a response to hypoglycemia throughout the night. Okay, now this one is avoidable to some extent, and that is obviously controlling medications before bed. If you're overdosing medications, that could cause to hypoglycemia throughout the night, low blood sugars, and that is gonna likely increase the likelihood of experiencing this Somogyi effect, which is usually an overcompensation, which is why when you wake up, blood sugars are abnormally high. Okay, so we've got carbohydrates, we've got the dawn phenomenon, we've got the Samoji effect, we've got lots of other things too, like stress. Okay, now by stress, I don't just mean psychological stress. Of course, that can cause high blood sugars. Yes, that could cause high fasting blood sugars, psychological stress, but not only psychological stress, but physical stress too. Being unwell, flu, allergies, okay, injuries, any of these physical stressors can cause an increase in fasting blood sugars. On top of that, we've got things like varying levels of hydration. If you are dehydrated rather, this can absolutely, there is a correlation between dehydration and volatility with blood sugars. Okay, so dehydration can cause volatility with blood sugars, absolutely. Next, we've got things like sleep. Sleep has a direct impact on your body's ability to be able to store blood glucose where it needs to be in your muscle tissue and liver, which does cause an increase in blood sugars, which could be explaining some of these higher fasting blood sugars. On top of that, lack of sleep leads to an increase in your hunger hormone called ghrelin, meaning you are more likely to consume more food, snack more, eat more carbs, etc., which are absolutely going to lead to an increase in fasting blood sugar. So sleep has a direct impact physiologically, but it also has an indirect impact via choices that we make, higher appetite, less movement because you're more tired. If you're tired, mood is impacted. If your mood is negatively impacted, your choices are also going to be negatively impacted. Okay, now I could go on for another 5-10 minutes and talk to you ladies about all of the things that impact your fasting blood sugars. But what I really want you to understand here is that blood sugars are incredibly volatile. You are ever going to be in complete control of your blood sugar. So relinquish the belief that you can be in complete control of your blood sugars. That is never going to be a thing. That does not exist. There are too many things that have an influence or have an effect on your blood sugars that you actually have not much control over. Okay, so control what you can control. Go to bed a little bit earlier. Yeah, make sure you're hydrated. Make sure that your dietary is adhered to in a way that leads to weight loss and, of course, lower blood sugars. So, lower carbs, for instance. Yeah, make sure there's some walking, some movement. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's a 5-minute walk every day. That 5-minute walk is significantly better than a 0-minute walk. All right. I hope you found this helpful. Okay. If we were to summarize all of the things that we just went through off the top of my head, first of all, excess body fat is what causes insulin resistance, therefore high blood sugars and type 2 diabetes. So that is the main goal, the main thing that we're wanting to rectify and wanting to achieve, fat loss. Okay. After that, we've got carbohydrates. If your carbs are high today, your blood sugars are going to be higher tomorrow. If you consume carbs later today, then your blood sugars are going to be higher earlier tomorrow, unless you take your blood sugars 2 hours later, if that is the case. Okay, we've got things like sleep, we've got things like stress, psychological and physical stress. We've got the dawn phenomenon, we've got the Samoji effect. Okay, and I don't want to overwhelm you with all these things. Instead, I want to simplify it and remind you ladies that you can't control your blood sugars at all times. So yes, at times you're going to wake up and sometimes those blood sugars aren't going to make sense. Sometimes you're going to be like, how on earth has that happened? I've done everything right. That is normal. That is unavoidable to some degree. You can do absolutely everything right and still have high fasting blood sugars because you are not in control of your blood sugars at all times. There are far too many things that are out of your control that have an effect on your blood sugars. Like I said a few minutes ago, focus on the things that you can control. All right, ladies. I hope you found this helpful. Have a great Friday or whatever day it is that you're watching me. And if you found it helpful, comment helpful down below. If you've got any questions, any concerns about any of the things that I did just cover, you know what to do. Put those down below. I don't want you leaving any more confused than when you came. All right, ladies. I'll speak to you very, very soon. Have a great day.